we're getting a new source is Trevor Plouffe, former Minnesota Twin, former Philadelphia Philly, didn't play last year. He's now sending out that he's hearing rumors that Major League Baseball is going to start on July 1st. What do you think of that? And do you think there's anything to it?
Well, I think there is something to it in Trevor Plouffe's mind. He wouldn't go with it if he didn't believe in it. And he is a former player, and he talked about multiple sources. I do think MLB is going to play this season, so he wouldn't be inaccurate about that. As far as the starting point, I don't see it much earlier than spring training in June and the season beginning in July. And as far as what form that takes, I don't know. But I will say, the last part of that tweet, though, was he talking about every home ballpark being available?
I believe so. And
that's where I disagree with him, if in fact that's what he said, because I don't think it's realistic for MLB to think that they're going to play games in some of the COVID hotbeds, notably New York. I think that's an extremely dicey proposition. Even if you don't have fans, it's very difficult for me to believe they're going to try to play at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field.
Well, here's the other thing that you keep hearing when these rumors come out or speculation comes out. Nobody's turning down the fact that it'll happen. But if somebody, a player or somebody as part of the game, winds up positive, that's a problem, because I believe what I've seen, if somebody becomes positive, then you got to stop for 3 weeks. Well, if you stop for 3 weeks, you may as well stop for the season. You got over 900 players now. Major League Baseball talking about expanding to a 30-man roster instead of 25, and you have the ancillary people out there, even though you don't have fans. One person, the odds are pretty good. One person is going to be showing up positive, I would think.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you were talking about, Les, or I hadn't heard that everything has to be shut down if somebody's testing positive. I would test every player the day of the game, and if anybody tested positive, they're out and they're quarantined. But if you tested negative, you would be allowed to play. Maybe that's too simplistic, but here's another thing, Les. I think what you do need to do to be realistic about it, if you're MLB, is to play in a finite number of venues, meaning not try to play in all 30, even 20, even 15. My proposal is 8. 4 hubs of 2. So I just don't think you're going to want, because what you can do there, limit the number of venues you play in, you can control the environment that much better.
Right. Well, there's a report, and I mentioned in the opening, and I said the Indians players were advised of that. They were not. It was the front office advised. They had a meeting, a teleconference meeting with about 40 key executives, and they talked about being ready at this point for a July 1st opening. So that would mean to me that it won't be earlier than, as you alluded to, Dennis, that would seem to be that you're not going to get it before July 1st. If you do, from a competitive standpoint, if you do start on July 1st, that's 3 months worth of half a season, which I think is acceptable to most fans to make it a legitimate season.
Correct, Les. We've talked about this on previous shows. What makes an MLB season, regular season, legitimate? Obviously, you'd like it to be 162, but in the event of a global pandemic, what's an acceptable number? I think we had talked about a minimum of 82, which is one more than the majority, but I think a nice target range is 100 to 120. You want to see triple digits, I think, in an MLB season, because so much of building an MLB team is about the marathon. So you have to weave that into the fabric when you're coming up with a solution during a pandemic. But I would suggest something in the neighborhood of 100 to 120 games over the span of 3 to 3.5 months. And
bunch of double headers.
What's that?
Bunch of double headers.
Yeah, you'd have to do that for sure. And again, I would limit the number of venues the games are played. I would not do the Cactus League, Grapefruit League shuffle. I think you can play games in major league ballparks with no fans and regulate the testing at certain venues, especially low concentrations of COVID outbreak.
I also wonder what if there's a player, although they're going to have to, the Players Association is going to have to agree with whatever decision they make. But what if a player says, no, I'm not risking my health, my career, my life. I don't want to do that. I wonder what they'll do in that case.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would think that if the league agrees to go ahead and play, and you've heard, Tony Clark with MLBPA say that the players want to go. So if the agreement is to go and play, and there is a dissenter or a conscientious objector, if you will, then that person would risk not getting paid, I would imagine,
Yeah.
for the season.